Have you ever cared about someone so deeply that you shaped parts of your life around them, only to realize later that they weren't holding your heart as carefully as you held theirs? That's where my story begins. Before everything fell apart, I honestly believed my ex and I were building something real. We shared plans, routines, and moments that felt steady and warm. I wasn't expecting anything dramatic or heartbreaking. If you'd asked me back then, I would have said we were solid. But looking back, there were small signs, little shifts in their tone, sudden distance, moments when I felt like I was reaching out while they were stepping back. I didn't want to believe any of it. I held on tightly because I thought love just needed patience. I didn't know I was standing at the edge of something that would change me completely. And the choice I made later, well, that's what people still judge me for. The turning point wasn't dramatic at first. It was quiet, almost too quiet. My ex started coming home later, keeping their phone closer, and brushing off my questions with gentle but distant answers. I kept telling myself they were just stressed or tired, because the alternative felt too heavy to imagine. But one evening, while I was putting away laundry, I noticed a message pop up on their screen. It wasn't explicit or anything like that, but it was warm in a way that made my chest tighten. The kind of warmth you reserve for someone who holds a special place in your heart. My stomach dropped. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself I was misunderstanding. I wanted to believe there was a simple explanation. Instead, I found conversations nothing graphic, nothing physical, but filled with emotional closeness that should have been reserved for our relationship. That was the moment my heart sank. The moment I realized something precious had quietly slipped away. After seeing those messages, I felt completely numb. It wasn't loud heartbreak, it was quiet. Like someone slowly closing a door I didn't realize was still open. I kept replaying every moment in my head, searching for signs I might have missed. The laughter that felt forced. The replies that came slower. The way they pulled away just a little when I reached for their hand. I didn't want to act out of anger, but I also didn't want to pretend everything was fine. I felt torn between walking away peacefully and standing up for myself in a way that made them understand how deeply their actions affected me. I wasn't trying to hurt them, I just didn't want to feel invisible anymore. So I started thinking, not destructively, not recklessly, but carefully. If I confronted them, they might deny everything. If I stayed silent, I'd be betraying my own feelings. I needed a way to express my hurt without crossing lines I'd regret later. That's when the idea began forming. I gave myself a full day before doing anything. I didn't want my emotions to lead me somewhere I couldn't come back from. I kept reminding myself, I want clarity, not chaos. So instead of calling them out publicly or trying to make them feel the way I felt inside, I chose something quieter, something honest. I gathered every moment that mattered in our relationship photo. Small notes we exchanged, little memories that once made my heart warm. I placed them in a simple envelope with a handwritten message. I deserve honesty. I hope you find yours. There was no accusation, no anger, no dramatic scene, just truth. Then I left the envelope on their doorstep, not to embarrass them, not to expose them, but to show that I knew without shouting it to the world. Part of me hoped they'd reach out, admit what happened, and at least give me closure. Another part of me feared the silence, but either way, I'd said what my heart needed to say. Once people found out about what I'd done, the responses were overwhelming. Some friends quietly supported me, saying they understood my pain and my need for honesty. Others were shocked, telling me I went too far or that my actions were over the top. Even people I didn't expect weighed in online, sharing opinions as if my personal heartbreak was a public spectacle. It hurt more than I imagined. Not because I regretted expressing myself, but because suddenly, my grief and my boundaries were being judged. I felt exposed in a way that wasn't about the relationship anymore. It was about my choices, my morality, and how others thought I should handle betrayal. I realized something important. No matter how carefully I tried to respond, people would interpret my actions through their own lens. And yet, despite the criticism, there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing I hadn't compromised my integrity or allowed myself to be invisible again. After the initial shock of reactions, I finally had space to reflect. I realized that my actions weren't about revenge or making anyone pay. It was about reclaiming my voice and protecting my emotional well-being. I had spent so long internalizing pain, pretending it didn't exist, and hoping someone else would notice it. That quiet, honest act showed me that I could stand up for myself without being cruel. I also understood that people's opinions don't define the value of my feelings or the choices I make to protect myself. Some saw me as dramatic, but I saw someone learning boundaries, self-respect, and emotional courage. Most importantly, I learned that closure doesn't come from retaliation. It comes from acknowledging your own worth, expressing your truth, and letting go of what you can't control. It's about choosing peace and growth over anger and regret. This moment of clarity changed how I approach relationships, trust, and even myself. In the days and weeks after, I realized something essential. My story isn't about punishment or proving a point, it's about reclaiming my peace. I chose honesty, not harm. I chose boundaries, not chaos. And though people still debate whether I went too far, I know the truth of my intentions. I acted from a place of hurt, yes, but also from a place of self-respect and care for my own emotional well-being. Moving forward, I focus on healing, understanding, and trusting myself again. I've learned that betrayal can teach us not only about others, but about our own strength. I can forgive, not to excuse what happened, but to free myself from carrying that pain forever. So now I turn to you. If you were in my place, would you have handled the situation the same way or chosen differently? Share your thoughts below. And if this story resonated, subscribe, and hit the bell for more heartfelt, real-life stories about trust, heartbreak, and personal growth.